Now, MEC's global CEO, Charles Courtier, was in town recently to get a sense of how the Indian market is faring, what clients are thinking, and how the Indian landscape is shaping up. I caught up with him to get a sense of his take on the Indian market, how MEC fared in 2015, given that media agencies at large went through very turbulent times thanks to a zillion pitches, the stark and bitter reality of operating in today's market, and everything in between. Listening. Thank you so much for joining us, Charles. Truly a pleasure having you on Brand Equity.
And it's a pleasure to be here.
2015 has been a very difficult year for most media agencies and the media agency landscape. Would you be in agreement?
Yes.
Right? Given the number of pitches that we saw roll out, how has 2015 for you been like? And if I asked you to put a dual cap on, which is your MEC cap and your industry cap, how do you see the media landscape changing, or has it completely changed in the way they function?
Well, I think that, I mean, the sort of the media palooza of 2015, I mean, MEC did quite well out of it. In fact, WPP did, I think, probably the best of anyone out of it. And MEC, we had some ups and we had some downs in it, no doubt about that. But overall, we came out on top. I think if you look at the industry, I think the scale of those pitches, I think, are really driven by two things. I think one, it's driven by procurement, so that the need to ensure that that we're getting that advertisers are getting the best value that they can in the marketplace. Everyone's under a lot of pressure,
Sure.
And I think the second reason is fear, and I think it's fear in the sense of ensuring that, am I working with an agency that understands this crazy digital and data landscape and the speed that it's moving? It's so confusing for the whole industry. I think that part of what they're looking for as well is, testing and ensuring that they're working with agencies that are able to lead them through such a complicated landscape.
From what you said, it's interesting that at one level, clients are, really ensuring that they get complete value for their buck, right? And on the other hand, they want disproportionate value out of your services. So it is a bit of a conundrum there, right, in terms of expectations, in terms of fee versus expectations in terms of deliverables from the agency.
I think you're right, and I think the business is going to move towards being remunerated more for outcomes, so for actual performance.
Versus
so
output.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the KPI that I'm trying to hit, and you'll get paid if you hit it, and you don't if you won't. It is moving away from agencies being remunerated on commission of what they spend, because so much of what we do now has actually got little or nothing to do with the actual buying of media.
Do you think a lot of it is also triggered by very short roles of CMOs?
I think that's part of it, yes. I mean, I think that I think the average CMO in the US is in his position 18 months or 2 years or something. Is a very, very short amount of time to make any change in anything.
Coming to programmatic and how big that's become, in your life, in your lives. Some people are of the opinion that programmatic is not particularly, 100% the way to go, because you can do programmatic, you can be all automated, but it needs, if you don't have that human intelligence touch, then your investments may not reap as much fruit as it would with slightly more strategic thinking. Would you be in agreement?
I'm in total agreement, and I think that there's a big misconception about programmatic, that somehow it's an automated media agency in its entirety, and it's not that. It is only an efficient and piece of technology that makes the buying process actually happen. But I completely agree with you. Without the strategic thinking that is designing what the audience architecture is that you want that the programmatic will actually buy in the end, and without the innovation and the creativity to actually make it something that the consumer wants to engage with, then programmatic is just efficient buying and may have no real impact on the brand at all.
I want to talk to you about this big beast called digital, right? So, and I want to talk to you specifically on the fact that we see more and more media investments, being, plowed into digital. However, so I'm going to give you the India perspective, and then you can give me the global perspective. And I find that a lot of Indian CEOs and CMOs are of the opinion that while we are putting more monies and betting more on digital, because if you don't, people look at you as digitally challenged or a complete retard in the new marketing world. The fact is, when they actually look at outcomes or business impact, they're not very clear in terms of how efficient the digital media really is, as opposed to, let's say, their traditional, which they're more comfortable with. And so while that's not impacting digital spends, because digital spends are only increasing, the fact is they're not completely confident about the fact that they're doing the right thing, but they have to do it just, to show.
Feel pressed down.
You've got, there's not only peer pressure, but there's, there's pressure just to, your CEO pressure, et cetera, et cetera. You just have to show that you're doing something. But I'm not completely sure that they're doing the right thing.
Yes, no, I understand that, and I'm actually quite sympathetic to that view. However, I think this train is moving in the direction of the digitization of almost everything in one form or another, and therefore I think you sort of have to be on that train as a marketeer. But I think there's a test and learn part to this that is crucial, that brands are in this space, get the balance right, because you're right that that social media is not everything, certainly not in India anyway, yet, but it's coming. And I look at some markets. I mean, the UK, ad spend online, is bigger than television now.
Wow.
And there are markets moving in that direction.
I want to talk to you a little bit about, Wavemaker, which is an MEC content initiative.
Yeah.
Tell me, how different is Wavemaker, launched by a media agency, different from, let's say, what digital agencies are doing, or what creative agencies have begun doing, or what, multi-channel networks are doing these days? I mean, they're all in the same space. So, what's your strategic objective?
I think what we're doing that's different is that, we have taken our creative and content capabilities that exist around the world, our sports and entertainment capabilities, and our search and social, put it all together into one unit with content at the core of it. And from the word go, it is a $100 million business with 750 people in 10 markets. So scale-wise, that's quite a lot bigger than most people have. We've done a lot of work as an agency on looking at the whole purchase cycle of what the triggers are that make somebody buy, what do they do in the passive stage when they're just thinking about buying but not actually buying.
Sure.
And it's making content work, at those different points of the purchase journey. And we think that that's radically different, because a great piece of, a nice piece of content anybody can make that. But a great piece of content that will trigger a sale at the right moment in time in the purchase journey, I think is a different proposition completely.
On that note, Charles, thank you so much for taking time out. Truly a very, very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
I enjoyed myself. Thank you.